I promise I'm gonna get better with doing these what to plant in whatever month at the beginning of the month, but like life has been lifing. Here's to me doing better next month. And it's been really stormy the past few days, as you can see from the overcast skies in the background, so hopefully it does not rain on my head. If it's any consolation, a lot of the plants on this list you can also plant in April. March is one of the busiest planting months of the year for us here in Zone 9. And so today I'm going to share with you over 25 crops that you can plant in the month of March and probably also in the month of April here in Zone 9. I'll also share with you whether it's best to direct sow or transplant, as well as tips on how to set your plants up for success throughout the season. We got a lot to go through, so let's go. The first is Roselle hibiscus, or aka sorrel, depending on where you are from. A lot of you all have come at me for calling Roselle hibiscus, which is technically what it says on the seed packet. And Roselle hibiscus is one of the OGs when it comes to Texas heat. It grows exceptionally well here, and last year my Roselle hibiscus was the biggest yet. It got over 11 feet wide. And I find that Roselle hibiscus is one of the most carefree and easiest crops to grow as long as you set it upright. For a plant that gets that big, it does need a nutrient-rich soil. And so I heavily amend my soil with compost, blood meal, bone meal, and a well-balanced organic fertilizer. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but once you set it up for planting, I find that I do not have to fertilize it at all throughout the season. Roselle hibiscus needs a nice long growing season to really produce. And so if you haven't already direct sown or started indoors, at this point in the season, I highly recommend just planting as a transplant. Typically, my Roselle hibiscus is ready to harvest in early fall and will continue to produce up until it's killed by the first frost, as it is incredibly frost sensitive. Next on the list is actually a relative of Roselle. And if you have seen my videos, y'all know it's a crop that I detest and only plant it because I love my mom. And that is okra. I know, take it in if you're from the South. I know Southern card revoked, but I just can't. Okra can be both direct sown or planted as a transplant. You still have time in the season to direct sow if you are here in Zone 9 or above. And for my okra, I don't do much. I just amend the soil with compost and a well-balanced, slow-release organic fertilizer, and I don't do any supplemental feedings throughout the season. So if you like okra, there you go. Next are cucumbers. Now, I absolutely love growing cucumbers. Even though I don't like cucumbers, like fresh, but I love pickles. Deal. My mom also loves sweet pickles and she makes me make them for her, but I think pickles are made to be sour and dilly. I find that cucumbers are best direct sown. They germinate incredibly fast, and even in this point of the season, you still have time to direct sow your cucumbers. If you are transplanting, you want to make sure you do so with caution because cucumbers' roots are very sensitive to root disturbance. For cucumbers, I amend my soil heavily with compost and a well-balanced organic fertilizer. However, cucumbers are exceptionally heavy feeders. They are vines, and so they put on a lot of growth throughout the season. And so I find that I will actually fertilize them with a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer once a month in combination with fertilizing every 2 weeks with a liquid organic fertilizer. And depending on what type of what is he doing? Rico, he just peed on my, Rico, he just peed on my oregano. Caught in the act. Yes, you were. And depending on what varieties that you're growing, their bush types, as well as your typical vining types, you will need some type of trellis or support for your cucumbers. The next are your squash, and this includes both summer and winter squash. A common misconception is that you plant summer squash in the summer and winter squash in the winter. That's absolutely false. You actually plant them at the same time, and the reason why winter squash is called winter squash is due to its longer shelf life. Historically, winter squash was harvested in the summer and stored and consumed throughout the winter. So yeah, plant them at the same time. For squash, you're just going to amend the soil with compost and a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. I found that squash isn't nearly as hungry as something like cucumbers, and so I would just fertilize every 4 to 6 weeks with a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. Next are tomatoes, and tomatoes are hands down one of my favorite crops, if not my favorite crop, to grow at home because it is one of the crops that you can absolutely tell the difference from buying store-bought versus growing at home. Tomatoes grow exceptionally well here. However, they do start to tap out when temperatures reach 90, 95 degrees and stay there consistently, which is pretty much all of summer for us here in Texas. Tomatoes are best planted as transplant. And tomatoes are actually one of the few plants you bury along the stem because wherever the stem comes in contact with moist soil, it creates more roots, which equates to a stronger, more vigorous, and more robust plants. Tomatoes are incredibly heavy feeders, and at planting, I will heavily amend my soil with compost, bone meal, blood meal, and a well-balanced slow-release organic fertilizer. Similar to my cucumbers, I will fertilize my tomato plants once a month with a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer, as well as a liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks. Tomatoes can become susceptible to something called blossom end rot, and this is most commonly triggered by inconsistent watering. This can cause a calcium deficiency in your tomato plants. Common sources of calcium for tomato plants are bone meal and gypsum. However, bone meal does take a lot longer to break down, and so garden gypsum is often a faster remedy. Tomatoes are a type of vine, so they will need some kind of support. Related to tomatoes, but not quite a tomato, are tomatillos. They have very similar growing habits and nutrient needs. Also important to note, some varieties of tomatillos actually require 2 plants to produce fruit. So make sure you do your research before planting. Next are your pepper plants, and that's going to include bell peppers, hot peppers, all the peppers. They're actually related to tomatoes. They're part of the nightshade family. However, peppers are not nearly as high maintenance as tomatoes. I found that they do just fine with soil that's been amended with compost and a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. And after planting, I'll fertilize with a slow-release, well-balanced organic fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks. And peppers are best planted as transplants. Something to note, if you are seed saving your pepper seeds and you plant a sweet pepper next to a hot pepper, within that season, they'll be fine. Your sweet pepper will taste like a sweet pepper and your hot pepper will taste like a hot pepper. However, if you save seeds from the sweet pepper, there is a likelihood that there was some cross-pollination and your sweet pepper will actually be a hot pepper. So, could be fun. It's also helpful to stake your peppers. While they don't need the same level of support as a tomato, a simple bamboo stake or something similar works just fine. Next are eggplant, which are also related to both peppers and tomatoes. However, I found that of all the nightshades, eggplants are one of the most resilient to the heat. Eggplants are best planted as transplants. They also, similar to peppers, aren't nearly as high maintenance as a tomato. I found that if I amend the soil with compost and a slow release well-balanced organic fertilizer, they do just fine. And similar to peppers, I will fertilize once every 4 to 6 weeks. Next are potatoes, specifically your Irish potato types, and they're also part of the nightshade family. Potatoes aren't grown from seed. In fact, you just plant the potato. However, seed potatoes are usually certified to be free from disease. However, quite frankly, I have bought seed potatoes and they have been diseased. You can also just plant organic potatoes from the grocery store. However, I would avoid planting your conventional non-organic potatoes from the grocery store because they are sprayed with growth inhibitors, which inhibit growth. For my potatoes, I just amend with compost and a slow release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. However, if you want to get particular, potatoes do prefer more potassium as it relates to the NPK values. However, a slow release, well-balanced fertilizer will do just fine. The next few plants I'm grouping together, and those are your legumes. And that's going to include things like green beans, cowpeas, lima beans, and the list goes on. Green beans come in bush varieties and pole varieties. The difference is bush varieties, they grow in sort of a bush habit, and so they don't need any type of support. However, pole varieties do. And I do find that pole varieties are a lot more abundant. They're also a lot easier to harvest from. However, I grow a combination of both. Legumes are best direct sown. However, you can start indoors and then transplant. However, their roots are sensitive to disturbance, and so if you are transplanting, just do so with care. Now, legumes really aren't finicky in terms of overall nutrient needs. In fact, you have a lot of people that say you just plant it in poor soil, they'll fix it with nitrogen and all that jazz, which is true. However, nitrogen is just one nutrient that a plant needs. So I have never been on the bandwagon of planting your legumes in poor soil. In fact, when I have done that, I have gotten really crappy plants as a result and have had to fertilize after the fact. And so for all of my legumes, I do amend my soil with compost. So I might actually do you know what? I think that deserves an experiment, y'all. We're going to do an experiment where I plant legumes in different soil types to see the results that we get. Yeah, we're going to do it. Next are sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are another OG as it relates to heat tolerant plants. Fun fact, sweet potatoes and Irish potatoes have no relation other than having potato in their name. Irish potatoes are part of the nightshade family, whereas sweet potatoes are part of the morning glory family. And unlike your Irish potatoes, for sweet potatoes, you plant sweet potato slips. I had a fabulous sweet potato year this past season, y'all. And most of the sweet potatoes actually wintered over from my sweet potatoes from the past season. And they literally just rooted in my native clay soil. And you can create your own sweet potato slips from organic sweet potatoes from the grocery store. All you're gonna do is plant them in a container and some seed starter mix and allow them to sprout and vine. Once they start to vine, you cut them along the nodes in a couple inch pieces and then root them in water. However, if you'd like me to go into more detail on that process and how I do it, let me know in the comments. Sweet potato is another plant that I find that if I set it up right, I do not have to do anything else throughout the season. I am in the soil with compost. You guessed it, a slow release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. Next are muscadines. Now, muscadines are actually native to a lot of the southern and eastern United States, and they are exceptionally well. They're another OG as it relates to being heat tolerant. And muscadines are a really great alternative to grapes because a lot of grape varieties actually do not fare well here in the South because of something called Pierce's disease. Muscadines are actually resistant to Pierce disease. I find that they're another one that's really carefree and easy. All I do is set it up with my two favorite things, compost and a slow release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. But highly recommend giving muscadines a try. However, if you have your heart dead set on growing your traditional table grapes, try giving Victoria Red or Southern Sensation a try. They were specifically bred to be resistant to Pierce disease. I actually planted Southern Sensation last season, so I'm excited to see how they perform. I just knew this was gonna happen. It's raining on my head. We'll try this again later. And I'm back. Just enough rain to make it unpleasantly humid. Next are your leafy greens. And as we head into the warmer months, you really want to focus on things like slow bolting lettuce varieties, Malabar spinach, chard, the plant that just never dies, as well as amaranth. Amaranth? Amaranth. Not really sure how to say that. Lettuce is pretty easy to grow. I find that I don't have to do much outside of amending the soil with compost and adding a slow release, well-balanced organic fertilizer. I hear myself say that and I'm like, girl, we get it. As the weather continues to warm up, your lettuce will eventually bolt, which is just a fancy way of saying it will go to flower. And at that point, the leaves become tough, bitter, and pretty much inedible. During the warmer months, chard is my absolute favorite green to grow. I have showed you all and told you all time and time again that is literally the plant that is indestructible. It powers through the summer as well as our winters. And the more you harvest from it, the more and more vigorous it grows. Chard, I really don't do anything to my chard plants outside of maybe fertilizing when I can remember. I did amend the soil with compost and a well-balanced slow release organic fertilizer. And so if I was just planting chard, I would do the dynamic duo. That's what I'm gonna call it, the dynamic duo. I prefer to direct sow each of these leafy greens. However, you absolutely can plant as transplants. Next is corn, and corn is a plant that fares really well during the heat of summer. Corn is absolutely best direct sown. It has a taproot that's very sensitive to root disturbance. So if you find yourself having to, which if you're in a warmer climate, you should not have to, but in the instance that you do, you want to be incredibly careful when transplanting. But highly recommend just direct sowing. Corn is a type of grass, and so it germinates incredibly fast, it grows incredibly fast, and it is an incredibly heavy nitrogen feeder. When planting my corn, I amend with chicken manure. That's because poultry manure naturally has a higher nitrogen content than other types of compost like mushroom compost or even cow manure. I also amend with blood meal and a well-balanced slow release organic fertilizer. And after planting, I will fertilize with both every 4 weeks. Next are fruit trees and fruiting shrubs. March is still a good time to plant here in the Houston metro area. In fact, outside of the summertime, there really isn't a bad time to plant trees and fruiting shrubs. Some of my favorites include blackberries. Blackberries grow exceptionally well here. Y'all know my blackberries showed up and showed out this past season, so I'm really excited to see how they do this year. Blueberries also perform really well here, specifically southern highbush and rabbit eye varieties. And some of my favorite trees to plant include peaches, mulberries, figs, and pears. But really, there's so many trees that grow well here in the Houston metro area. If planting trees in ground, you want to make sure you dig a hole at least 1.5 times the size of the root ball. You also want to make sure you do your absolute best to loosen the soil as much as possible, especially here in Houston where we have heavy clay. Next, you're going to fill the planting hole back up with the native soil and then top off with a bit of compost and mulch. There's no need to fertilize your trees at this point. As the compost and mulch breaks down, they will provide them with a slow dose of nutrition. Additionally, this will encourage the roots to dig deeper in search of nutrients. And next are your heat-loving herbs. And this is going to include basil, lemongrass, rosemary, and lavender. And there's so many more. I have found the trick to overgrown hedges of herbs is neglect. Found that they do the best when I just simply forget about them and give them the basics, which is water. And sometimes I forget to do that and they do just fine. Neglect ain't always bad for certain plants. Now, neglect within reason, y'all. Within reason. For my herbs at planting, all I do is amend the soil with compost. I don't even add any fertilizer. Next are your heat-loving flowers. I am a big proponent of planting flowers throughout my vegetable garden. Not only does it just create beauty, it's visually appealing, it supports a well-balanced ecosystem. It attracts all types of pollinators and beneficial insects. And some of my favorite flowers to plant now include sunflowers, cosmos, zinnias. If you're more into planting native flowers, some that I really like that are native to Texas include salvia, Turk's cap, as well as lantana. And this is my little pissy poo, Rico. The only one of my pups that I actually purchased. And he knows he's on camera and he does not like it. Do you not want to be on camera? Or you do? Bum, 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 bum. I switched dog. I switched him out for this one, which is Reuben. He's my chill dog. He's a stray. He came to me one day when I was gardening and just never left. Living the high life, wind and fur, not a care in the world. I hope this was helpful. I hope this motivates you to get out in the garden and go plant some things, even if it's just a few herbs. March is one of my favorite times of the year to garden here in Houston because it's not hot. I mean, it's hot, but it ain't hot. I'm in the midst of my spring planting where I am bringing y'all along as I plant the 100+ varieties of plants that I've either started in seed or I'm direct sowing on top of all the plants that I bought from the nursery, because y'all know it's my obligation to support my local economy. It has been a huge undertaking, a multi-week process, and so I hope to bring that to you either by the end of this month or beginning of next. But until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And remember, every black thumb ripens to green, and it all just starts with a seed.